Teacher, UAE's biggest classroom.
Okay, come back. So we have discussed up to the different modes of sexual reproduction like fission, budding and fragmentation. All these three different types of reproduction methods, they are the simple modes of reproduction shown by simple organisms, even though if it is multicellular or unicellular. Simple organisms are carrying out these modes of reproduction or following these modes of reproduction. And now, so let us have a picture please. Okay, here. So here fragmentation picture also here, the diagram, say in the video please. Okay, so fission, budding and fragmentation, we discussed about these three different modes of reproduction, and now we are going to discuss about much more advanced mode of reproduction shown by multicellular organisms. Those are reproduction method, first one is regeneration. That means the fourth method of reproduction. So three methods we already discussed about. The fourth method is regeneration. Regeneration, as the name indicates, the organism is able to generate the lost body parts. So once it lost some of the body parts, it can grow that lost body part after some time. We know that organism like a lizard, you might have seen that lizard. It's a protective mechanism is there for lizard. Actually, when any animal or when any bird or anything, it's when it is under threat, or when any animal is coming to attack this animal, lizard, they are cutting their tail and escaping from that area, and gradually after few days the tail will grow for that organism. That is called a regeneration. That means once the body part has lost and it is able to produce or able to generate that lost body part, that is called a regeneration. And here this regeneration capacity is greater in lower organisms like Hydra and Planaria. Not only Hydra and Planaria, actually I told you organism like some lizards also, a lizard, they are also house lizard, gecko, they are also able to regenerate its tail. No any other part, only the tail it can regenerate. And also organism like earthworm, if it cut into two pieces, its head piece can grow into a new individual, not the tail piece, only the head piece can grow into a new individual. So the organisms like these organisms are possessing the capacity to generate its body part. But here in the case of these organisms like Hydra and Planaria, this regenerative capacity is much greater than what we have discussed about the other organisms. So in this organism, suppose a Hydra is cutting into small pieces, or a Planaria is it's a flatworm. It's a flatworm living in fresh water, and if an organism, if this animal is cut into small pieces, what many pieces we are making, if it is cut into very small pieces, even though each piece can grow into a new individual. That means from a single individual, when we are cutting them into different pieces, each piece it will not be it will not perish off, that body part will not die off or perish off. Instead, each part will grow into new individuals. So we cannot kill them by cutting them. So in this organism, actually Planaria, this reproductive method, this regeneration, it is one kind of asexual reproduction, even though there are some other means of reproduction also shown by this Planaria. That means they can reproduce by sexual means too, even though when it met with, when it is cutting into, accidentally when its body is cut into pieces, each piece will grow into new individual. Like that in Hydra also, Hydra if cut into pieces, Hydra also can grow into new individual. Each piece can grow into new individual, even though we know that Hydra is mainly reproducing by means of budding. So when it is not cut into pieces, so no problem, it can grow by, it can produce its young ones by means of budding. And here also, if it is not cut down into pieces, it will reproduce by sexual means. So regeneration is the capacity to generate the lost body parts. Regeneration is the capacity of an individual to produce its lost body parts or to generate the entire body from a small piece. Here Hydra and Planaria, they possess greater capacity to regenerate its body parts, even though some animals like a lizard or earthworm, they also can regenerate some of its body parts. So regeneration, that's about regeneration. So the next mode of reproduction, that is spore formation. Before that, let us see the picture, the diagram of fragmentation and regeneration. So in fragmentation, you might have seen that the single individual, it's a multicellular organism, it's a green algae, filamentous body is there. That body is cutting into two pieces on maturation. So it is a reproductive method shown by that organism. So on maturation, this organism is breaking down into pieces and each piece is growing into new individual. And in the case of Planaria, that is regeneration, there when the organism is cut into pieces, each piece can grow into a new individual. Here the organism, it's a multicellular organisms, both are multicellular organisms, and these multicellular organisms, when they cut into pieces, each piece will grow into new individuals. Even though regeneration is shown by these organisms, there are some other means of reproduction also shown by these organisms. Next method is spore formation. See in the diagram, you might have seen this. When we are keeping the food, the stale food or the food items, when we are keeping for a long time, when it comes in contact with the moisture, we can find that later some first white color, then later it is changing to dark color. So some sponge like structures found on that food substance, that is normally we are calling it fungus. So the fungus, a particular kind of fungus called Rhizopus, the fungus, they are fungus normally reproducing by means of spore. Actually spores are just like a seed-like structures. Seeds are, we know that seeds are produced by flowering plants only. So the seeds are found inside the fruits only. Fruits are produced from the seeds, flowers. So the flowering plants only can produce the seeds. But in non-flowering plants like fungus and certain plants, you might have seen some plants like ornamental plants what we are keeping at home. The bryophytes are there. On the back of their leaves, we can see certain dark spots on that. When we are looking the leaf, long leaf-like structures, we can see that on the side, small dark colored spots on the sides. They are all the spores. And these spores are growing into new. Wherever the spores are spreading, when it is coming into contact with the favorable conditions, they can grow into new individual. Actually in the bread fungus also you might have seen, the bread is inside. When we are seeing them, when we are trying to see them through the hand lens, we can clearly see that small structures like a small hair-like structures with a bud on the top, you might have seen that. So when we are touching, when we are just knocking there, we can see that powder-like substances, it is spreading all over. Those small fine powder-like structures are the spores. Actually spores are seed-like structures produced by non-flowering plants. So, certain plants like fungus and bryophyte, they reproduce by producing certain seed-like structures. They are called the spores, and these spores are coming when they are spreading. Actually, these spores are spread through the air and it can grow into new individuals. So, spore formation also, it's an asexual mode of reproduction shown by organisms like fungus. So, the fungus is reproducing by this means. Not only fungus, you might have seen the agaricus, that means mushrooms. Mushrooms also reproducing, mushrooms also coming under the category fungi, and mushrooms also reproducing by means of spore formation. So, mushrooms, so they are all reproducing by means of spore formation. So, here the diagram has been shown here. So, the spores, actually the spores are spreading into the air, and these spores slowly it germinate into new individuals. Actually, the spores are there on the atmosphere, they are on the air itself, they are carrying, the wind is carrying these spores, and these spores when stuck to, when they get favorable condition, the spores, actually the spore is having an outer covering also inside, that is called the sporangium, and inside the sporangium the spores are there. So, when it come in contact with the favorable substances where it can grow, when it come in contact with such things, the sporangium will break and the spores will grow into new individual. That is why when we are keeping the food items, leftover food items somewhere, you can see that slowly it is start damaging, and you can see the fungal growth over there, because the seeds or the spores of the fungus is there in the air. And the last form of reproductive method, asexual reproductive method, the sixth one, that is vegetative reproduction. This is the sixth mode of reproduction. So, already we discussed about all other means. Vegetative propagation, it is shown by advanced organisms, that is plants. Plants are reproducing asexually as well as sexually. And we know that when we are considering a plant body, the plant body can be divided into two different parts, that means vegetative part and reproductive part. We know that a plant body consists of root, stem, leaves, flowers, fruits, seeds, etc. So, the part like a root, stem, leaves and branches, they are all have different functions. Roots, we know that they fix the plant firmly in the soil, as well as it carry or absorb water and minerals from the soil. Stem is helping, or it is giving the support, as well as it is carrying the water towards the leaves, and the leaves are the sites of photosynthesis. So, the different parts we know that, and each of these part is having a particular function too, and these parts are called vegetative part of the plant. So, a plant is having a plant has vegetative parts as well as reproductive part. Reproductive part means normally a plant is reproducing by means by producing seeds, and the seeds are formed from the flowers. So, when we are considering a plant, flowers are the reproductive structures. Flowers form the reproductive part of the plant. Okay. So, a plant possesses different parts like vegetative parts and reproductive part. The vegetative part includes roots, stem and leaves, and reproductive part of the plant means it is the flowers, because only through because the flowers are changing into fruits, and inside the fruits there will be seeds, and these seeds are giving rise to new plants. So they are meant with the reproductive function. Rest all body part have different functions, and if reproduction is taking place through any of these vegetative part, such a mode of reproduction is called vegetative propagation. Propagation means multiplication. That means new plants are growing from, if it grows from root or stem or leaves, it is called vegetative propagation. Okay. So plants can be grow from both vegetative parts as well as from the seeds. Seeds are produced only by means of sexual reproduction. So flowers are the reproductive structures, and seeds are helping to generate the new plant. So the seeds are produced by means of sexual reproduction only. So the flowers can so the reproduction through the flowers, it is taking place through sexual method, and if the plant is reproducing through any of these part, it is called vegetative propagation, and we can produce a new plant from one single plant by means of vegetative propagation. For example, if we want to produce a new rose plant, we are cutting the stem of the rose plant, existing rose plant, and growing them. So from one single rose plant itself, we are getting a new rose plant. And also plants like sweet potato or sugar cane, or plants like bryophyllum. These plants are producing producing their new plants, young ones, offsprings from that same plant by means of, by using their root or by using the stem or through their leaves. So such a kind of reproduction is called vegetative reproduction or vegetative propagation. And some plants, most of the plants, we know that the flowering plants, most of the flowering plants, they are able to produce their young ones by sexual means, and that is through the seeds. So vegetative propagation, the advantage or the significance of vegetative propagation. We know that the plants like rose, jasmine, or rose, jasmine, and some more plants are there. They are not producing, even though they are flowering, they are not producing any seeds. Such plants, there is the only means to produce the young ones is by means of vegetative propagation. So vegetative propagation is important in case of certain plants which are not able to produce the seeds. So we can produce new plants from the seedless plants also. For example, orange, the seeds are very, so some of the plants, the orange plants also, we cannot produce the young ones from the orange seeds. So we are growing the orange plant by cutting the stem. And also we know that the plant like rose, we are making the new plant by cutting the stem, using the stem. And plant like sweet potato, we are growing, or potato, we are growing the new plants by using their tubers. So these plants and these all plants, we are reproducing by means of these vegetative parts. And the significance, the one significance of vegetative reproduction is, first one, the plants which are not able to produce the seeds also can reproduce by means of vegetative propagation. That is one of the importance of vegetative propagation. And another one is, yes, for example, when we consider the plants like certain plants, when we are growing the seeds, it takes much time to grow into a healthy plant, or it will take a long time to flower. For example, a mango seed. When we are sowing a mango seed, it will take a long time to grow into a tree. Many years, after many years only we will start flowering and fruiting. But when we are using Vegetative propagation. Nowadays we are doing artificial means, artificial methods of vegetative propagations are there, and these means are helping us to produce the new individual by this method. Vegetative propagation method we are using to make new individuals from the trees also. So it will take less time to produce flowers and fruits. So vegetative propagation, the plants which are produced by vegetative propagation are producing flowers and seeds earlier than which is growing from a seed. That is also one of the significance of vegetative propagation, so that vegetative propagation have much more importance, and nowadays we are adopting this method artificially too. And the different artificial methods of vegetative propagation are grafting, layering, and tissue culture. They are the different artificial methods which are adopted to produce new individuals from the existing plants. Even though the plants are reproducing by means of seeds also, while we are carrying out this grafting or layering or tissue culture, we can easily grow new cells, and we can grow improved variety of species from a single species, or from different plants. We can make improved varieties by means of this artificial reproductive methods, artificial vegetative propagation methods. So now today it's time to wind up, and let us recap once again. So today we discussed about, let's see the pictures, vegetative propagation in plants. Here two pictures are there, some plants which are growing from the stem, leaves and root tubers, and here the pictures of artificial methods of vegetative propagation, that is layering. In layering, this root has been kept under soil and it is growing into new plant. And tissue culture, that means from a single cell a lot of new cells are producing from a single cell, and that new cells are each will grow into new individuals. It is actually doing in the laboratory in a specialized way it is doing. And grafting, that is also horticulturists, they are doing this method, grafting, to produce improved varieties or the new varieties from the existing different kinds of plants. So now let's recap. So today we started with asexual reproduction. It is the method, it is the mode of reproduction in which new individuals are produced from single parent. Then there are different modes of asexual reproduction is there. Fission. Fission is of two types, binary fission and multiple fission. Binary fission is of different types, simple binary fission, longitudinal binary fission and longitudinal binary fission and transverse binary fission is there. Then multiple fission, that is also a mode of reproduction. And then budding, it is a reproduction method shown by organisms like yeast and hydra. So next one is fragmentation, that is shown by Spirogyra, and the simple filamentous body is breaking down into pieces and each piece is growing into new individual. Then regeneration. In this method, the organism is cut into pieces, and each piece can, when it cut into pieces, each piece can grow into new individual. Then spore formation, it is characterized by certain organisms, mainly by fungus. Fungus is reproducing by this means. Rhizopus is an example. Rhizopus is the normal modes, black modes. Then vegetative propagation. So the plants are carrying out reproduction by means of vegetative propagation. Here the plants are reproducing by means of through their roots, leaves or stem, that is through their vegetative body parts. And we are carrying out vegetative propagation artificially too. It is to produce new improved varieties. And there is the significance of this vegetative propagation is, first is the plants which are not able to produce the seeds also can be produced, new individuals can be produced by this method. And also one more importance is there, vegetative propagation produces seeds and flowers faster than plants which are produced by means of sexual reproduction. Okay, so today we are winding up. Hope you all could follow this lesson, and we will meet next week with the next topic. Thank you.